Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome, welcome. Let's see, I am just getting set up. I'm just a few minutes late here, but just double checking all the connections. All right, cool. For those of you that are probably I don't know if how many people come on, but this is just a live empath thing that I'm doing because I'm getting a lot of people saying that their empathness is a curse. It's not a curse. It's actually a blessing or a reward or just a gift of your calling and purpose that is supposed to enhance your life, enhance others around you. But there's a lot of misconception to it and fear due to the paranormal and things like that. So, what we're going to talk about today, yes, the paranormal, and also stories that I have experienced as a brand new empath, not even knowing I was an empath at that time. So, and how I dealt with it or how I learned how to deal with it, but also, too, tools that I didn't even know I could use back then. So hopefully the stories and everything will bring some fun. But also too, if this is pre-recorded or recorded actually. So this is live and it is interactive at the moment. I don't think there's anybody on, which is okay. But the thing is that it is live. And so if I do have somebody come on, I ask that if you have questions and it is interactive, that you keep the questions to what I am speaking with. And then if you have other questions, I'll answer those at the end. Otherwise, just say hello and say where you're from, and we're going to get started. So, way back in the days, because I'm in my 60s. So way back in the day, we didn't even have the word empath. Okay, so that wasn't even something that was entertained. We just had people that had abilities that we didn't talk about. And especially if you grew up in any religious and religion kind of thing, you definitely don't talk about those because those are demon based. Well, I had abilities since I was little. I would hear things or feel things since I was little, but I could never talk about them. So I didn't even come out of knowing my abilities until in my 50s. So, but this all really started to awaken back around 1990, 91. But it even maybe even before that, because yeah, it was before that because I thought I was going nuts in 1991. Because you can, because a lot of the times what we don't understand and what we don't see, we fear. So the first story I'm going to share with you is actually sort of unnerving and um, it's a sort of scary, but unsettling. That's the word I wanted. Unsettling. So with this, just keep in mind that this was probably either a spirit that didn't move on, or it could have been residual energy. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. So I was actually living in a duplex, just had moved into a duplex. And nice little apartment. For me, I actually set up my apartments as soon as I get in. I don't like boxes hanging around. I don't like that. I mean, I go all out all day long, all night long until I am done. So I had set up my house, and I'm a plant person, so I have plants all over. I didn't have as many plants back then, but I had quite a few plants. And I also had traveled, and so at that time I was young and in my 20s, so I collected T-shirts of events that I went to, like the Tokyo concert with Michael Jackson, or big things that was my souvenir kind of thing. So I would have a T-shirt collection that I would nail or pin up or whatever on the wall in my bedroom, because it's not something you want to put in your living room. So that I had in my bedroom. And I'm just giving you a little bit of a scenario of what prior to anything happening. So when I talk about poltergeist, it's not something like knives just flying through the air and that kind of thing. That's a lot of that possibly can happen, but a lot of that is also movies. You know, the more that you fear, the more that, you know, it draws you to want to watch it, right? But the first night, and oh, by the way, I had a water bed. And it was cold that first night. Of course, you know, they're not heated. Back then, we had water beds. Okay, that's how I'm aging myself. But I had worked really, really hard until probably 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. And I said, okay, I'm exhausted. I'm going to go to bed. Well, this was the first encounter of this spirit or residual energy. I want to say more of a spirit because things didn't happen the same every time. So what happened was I woke up and I turned and looked at my bedroom wall, and almost half of my t-shirts were torn off the wall. I'm like, did I not pin them up? Well, they're nails. So yeah, but you know, they were like kerfuffled. They were hanging like, you know, somebody was trying to rip them off the wall. I thought, well, that's weird. Maybe I just didn't pin them up right. So then I walk out into the living room, and there are my plants. Everything else is okay, but all my plants toppled over. And I was like, okay, now I couldn't stand, I had a big, tall, 6-foot yucca plant. So I thought, okay, that could have toppled over. You know, maybe the carpet's not stable, but why would these be toppled over? This was the first time I actually had encounters of a spirit. So I just put everything back together and just blew it off. Not a big deal, right? So I don't recall how many nights later, but I was laying in bed, and now, what do they call that? I can't remember. Anyway, I was awake. I had woken up, and I had woken up enough to be awake. Now, this is not the what do they call it? Paralysis sleep thingy. It is not that. I was awake, and I felt a presence next to the bed. And I thought, well, that's weird. What is that? But then I felt like a pillow over my face, trying to kill me, trying to suffocate me. And I thought, oh my God. And my heart's pounding, it's racing. I don't know, you know, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to die this way. What's going on? I don't understand. And I was faced away to the edge of the bed, you know, to the edge. So I was facing that way, but they had the pillow over me, and I could peek out and see. I could see from the waist, or not the waist, just from the top of the thigh to almost the knee, and that I could see khakis, military khakis, brown and green. Well, were they green or brown? They were green military khakis. And I thought, oh my gosh, somebody is here trying to kill me. And I said, okay, play dead. Play dead. So I did. I played dead. I waited and waited and waited and waited because I was terrified, because I didn't hear the door shut. I didn't hear anything that was going on. I didn't hear any shuffling around the house. I didn't hear any of that. So I sat there and I just waited, probably for a good half an hour, because I still didn't hear anything. So when I woke up, or not woke up, when I got up, my pillows were in the same place. I'm like, but they just tried to suffocate me. So what was that about? Terrified. I didn't say anything to anybody. Thought maybe I was going crazy, but I remember, and I can still today see those khaki pants right there. I can feel everything right there. That was the second incident. Now, I could feel his presence in the energies in the house, but I still didn't know how to get rid of him. Well, probably about a week later, maybe not even a week later, I'm laying in bed, and it's in the middle of the night, and I get awoken. Now, I was sound asleep, but I get awoken to a female's blood-curdling screams. Now, our duplex, the edge of my duplex was the end, Then there was like a walkway, and then there was an elementary school. And my window in the front, I could hear the scream getting closer and closer. And I could hear it was a blood curdling scream. All I could think of, she's being raped, or she's being killed, or she's being hurt. And all I could hear was, help me, help me, help me. And that went on. And I thought, okay, it is dark. If I get up, if I roll out of bed, crawl on the floor, because back then we didn't have phones, we didn't have cell phones. Crawl on the floor, go to the living room. Now the phone is where, okay, if I call the police and have them come, then what, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, but if I turn on the light, they'll know I'm awake, and maybe then they'll come after me. So I'm like, okay, so what do I do? All of a sudden the screaming stopped. And I'm like, okay, now it's stopped. Now where's he at? Where's he going? Because I was assuming it was a man trying to hurt a woman, because that energy was there. So after that, I felt guilty. I still do to this day, that I never did anything. But here's the clincher of the story. So terrified, because what happens is, my apartment is here. The elementary school's here. There's the walkway, like I said. That goes way out into a huge, huge, huge field. I mean, there used to be hot air balloons, and they used to do events out there and all that kind of stuff out there. So I'm thinking that maybe he dumped her in that field. So as I wake up, get up and get dressed and everything that day, I thought, okay, there's a duplex here, my duplex. It's like a U shape this way. And I thought, for sure these two duplexes along the same path had heard that last night. There is no way nobody could hear that. So then I go to both neighbors and I asked them, I said, did you hear the blood curdling screams of a woman last night? I said, she was screaming for help, and I don't know if somebody helped her. And he said, we didn't hear anything. Went to the next apartment. We didn't hear anything. So in all reality, when I went out to the field, looked everywhere, nothing. Absolutely nothing. Now, it really didn't end there, but those were the three main events that took me to, I thought I was losing my mind. Now, my girlfriend who dealt with the paranormal and that kind of thing, we went and visited somebody and asked how I can, clean, because she had said, you need to clean this house. The spirit is here. It doesn't want to leave. Maybe they're from the military and this is their home prior to this home, or maybe, whatever. So we actually cleaned the house, and it seemed to be quiet for a while, and it wasn't such a problem. And it seemed like maybe he moved on to the light. Now, was this a residual energy? I don't know. But I do know that he was there, and there was a presence there, because he did not want me there. He did not want me there at all. But I stayed. And the other thing, too, is we were discussing this. This wasn't just too long ago. So we were discussing this, and could it have been a spirit or a residual energy that may have been abusive to his wife? And maybe both the energies were there, and she was screaming for help while maybe she was being abused. I don't know, but I'm getting goosebumps. So I'm going to probably say it's more of a spirit. But if it was, this poor woman was being abused to the blood curdling screams that was happening. It was horrifying. But so that was the first beginning. That spirit ended up trying to follow me to a new house. Again, had to clean the house. Again, had to. And I believe that house also had another entity in it, because I would have guests stay in the extra bedroom, and they would say, this bedroom feels really strange, and it's very cold in here. And so we had I don't know if it was both entities there or if it was a new entity or the one had followed me, but I felt like the one had followed me, like they weren't going to give up. So, but that's here nor there. So that is more of a spirit entity. So that is one that you can actually feel their energies. You can maybe even see their energies. And they are in a place where they just are stuck and don't want to leave. All right. So the second story I want to share is about a time where my manager was leaving on vacation and they wanted somebody to watch their house. Not a big deal. No, sure, I'll go watch it. And so, and it was more of a country road kind of a thing because he had animals and all that kind of stuff, and he wanted the animals watched and fed and stuff like that. Not a big deal. So when I pulled up to this house, now I've already gone through several different paranormal things between that. But as I pull up to this house, I look at this house and it just hit me like I went back in time to Europe. Now, I don't know if you guys believe in dimensions or not, but I do. And it was like I was stepping back in time because the house and the barn and the extra building was very German or Holland or that look. The house was built because of the people that had lived there prior to match their heritage and their culture. So, not a big deal, not a problem. So I had to stay there. And then as I walked through the house, I could definitely feel energies. And I don't talk about this to my boss at all because he'd probably think I was nuts and probably he'd stay home and not go on his vacation. But I could feel a really strong presence. I wasn't sure what it was because I still knew at what I was doing, had no idea. It was a little nervous. I was a little nervous. It's like, okay, what is in this house? Is this an okay thing? Is this not an okay thing? Again, I'm still not comfortable with a lot of this because it is sort of unseen and unknown, and you don't know what they can do, what you can't do, and what they can project or not. I mean, they did the plants, they did the t-shirts, so they can actually move things if they want to. And that does take a ton of energy, and it has to be a very strong or probably entities together doing it together, like a guide and another spirit. Anyway, my boss leaves and he goes, and I'm just walking around the house. It's sort of a very interesting dark wood house, and it's got its rooms, but there was just in the walkway as you walked in the door, the kitchen was to the left, the living room was to the right, there was an office back here. It just had a very, even though the house was sort of warm, it had a very cold feeling, and I couldn't figure it out. Well, back in that day, I just sort of hung out, watched TV, listened to the music, and went and fed the animals and did all that kind of stuff. Well, one time when I came in to feed the animals, it was sort of dark. I walked into the house from the main door because you walk into the main door and then there's steps. And then again, the kitchen is open off here and the sink in the window is right there. And as I walk into the door, I turn and I see a spirit washing dishes. And I'm like, now I'm terrified. I'm like, I knew there was something here, but what the heck is going on? Because this was new to me. I don't see. I normally hear, but I don't see. But I saw. And I stood in my tracks and it suddenly left. And what was interesting is, now I'll tell you this in a minute. So what interesting is, and this is, remember, we're talking about spirit versus residual energies. As I looked at her, I wasn't terrified. I just took in all the information and details I could. She was a plump woman with a long skirt, and the white aprons that the older people used to wear back in the 60s, and for doing dishes and stuff like that. She had it and it was tied nice and tight, at her waist. She had sort of grayish hair and just came down to here. Either she had it in a net or it was just touching her collar, and she was bent over just doing the dishes. Okay. Felt uncomfortable from that point on. I don't think I slept very well that night because I was only there for one night. But I did not sleep good that night. In fact, it was like one of these things. I was like, what is going on in this house? Again, I'm still new at that stuff. Fast forward to my boss comes home, and I thought, I gotta say something. I don't know what to say. I'm like, so do you have anything going on in your house by perchance? And he's like, what do you mean? I said, like, do you ever feel like there's spirits or something here? And he's like, well, it is sort of a weird feeling. It does. Sometimes I do have a weird feeling. I said, because, he says, why? And I said, because I said, I came in from feeding the animals and I turned and looked at the sink and I gave the detailed description of the woman. And I said, and she's washing dishes. And he turned literally as white as a ghost. And I said, are you telling me there's a... He goes, that's impossible. That is so impossible. I said, I know what I saw and I'm not crazy. And I couldn't sleep at night because of it. He says, that's impossible because the woman that you describe lives down the street. And they used to own this house. Oh, I got goosebumps everywhere. This is residual energy. This is something that this woman had done over and over and over and over again in their house. Now, remember the first story about the guy? If he was very abusive to his wife and that was their bedroom, or if this house was similar to what was built prior to that, if there was anything on the land, then it was the area where the abuse might have happened. If it is not, then it is definitely a spirit. So sometimes it's really hard to decipher, is it residual energy or is it spirit? So those are a couple of things that I will talk about for you for just a second, and then we'll go to the last story. So, and the last story is very, very interesting. But so when residual energy happens, all it is basically our energy that stays in a place because we carry not only energy, but we carry smells, we carry vibrations, we carry all of our energies, and we've done certain things. So you're going to leave that energy. How long that energy lasts, I don't know. You have to ask the divine that. I have no idea how long residual energy lasts. Apparently it lasts extremely long time because my boss had lived in this home for a long time and they had sold the house to my boss and they lived up the road. So this wasn't like, a couple of weeks or months. This is years of residual energy. Now, if my boss wouldn't have verified that that woman that I saw was the woman down the street, then we might perceive it as a spirit. So, but that was very, very early on very early on, because well, again, I don't have, or I do have the ability of seeing, but for some reason it doesn't show through as much as the hearing. All right. So that is story 2. Now, story 3 is for an empath is more about your abilities growing and also not to be fearful of them. The thing is with these energies, especially, let's go back. So these 2 energies, if they are spirit or if they're residual, we don't know that. But if we feel uncomfortable, you can literally ask them to leave, because we have to set boundaries with spirit just as we would with them if they're here. And when my brother was murdered, that's another paranormal story for another time. But there was evidence that he was in my home with me while he had passed. And he was doing things that he was not allowed to do, like come into my bedroom. So I had to place those boundaries so that he would not enter my room during certain times. So that would make me feel more comfortable. They can hear. They can hear. They can hear, they can see, they can feel, they can touch, they can do all these things. Now, when you are learning about your abilities, just understand that you can talk to them as you are talking to them if they were here. So when you watch me do some of my intuitives, I hear somebody. And that's why I say thank you a lot, because I want to acknowledge I've heard them and I accepted the information. Now, if I want to share that information, then I will. But they do hear. In fact, I've had firsthand experience then that that I know that they do hear, and they are around. Now, how do we know who's around and what's around and how many of them are around? We don't. We don't, because we don't have that capability. Our brains do not have that capability, and if they do, it hasn't been shown to us. Some people can actually see roomfuls of people. I truly believe that. I came across an empath that just recently had an accident, a couple of bad accidents. And prior to that, she had no abilities. And now she has abilities. And they're accurate. They're very accurate. So it's something we'll never understand about our brain and how it works. Also, we don't understand about spirit, souls, and all that kind of stuff. We won't know that until we pass on, really, in all reality. But I do know only from firsthand experience and what worked for me and what didn't work for me. You have to clean the house. If you have spirits and you're not comfortable with them, you have to clean the house. And cleaning the house with sage and prayer, and letting them know that they're not wanted, that they need to not go to the light, but the light needs to take care and protect the home. The divine needs to protect the home, that kind of thing, because they can. Some of these spirits are very, very dark and can take you into a very dark place. Suicide, depression, they can take over everything and even change your life. That's how powerful some of these energies can be. So you really have to be mindful in knowing if you don't know and you're having those, contact somebody. That a lot of people can give you at least information for free. There's societies and communities around that are very willing to help you. Some people want to do it for money. Be careful about that. Money is time, or time is money. But the thing is too, are they doing it for the money, and are they fake, or are they doing it for the money because it takes time from whatever else they're doing, and they do it because they care? You'll know if it's a really deep amount, it's probably fake. It's probably fake. So you can always contact my channel, my website, and all that kind of stuff, and ask any questions at any point in time. So now this third story is all about hearing. So we do, depending on your empath abilities, what you do. Do you see? Do you hear? Do you feel vibrations? Do you, just have the knowing of intuition? What is it? Or do you have a lot of them? I think I have 8 of them. I think out of the 11 or 13 or whatever, 8 or 9 of them. I don't keep count, because whatever information comes in, it comes in, I deal with it, and I do with it what the divine wants me to do with it. And then, this is not mine, this is the divine. This is where I am his servant, or his person of conduit or messenger to share what I need to share. All right. So the instance in this one is 1991-ish. I had several things starting to happen. Remember the second house that I moved to and they followed me? Well, that was happening at the same time. I knew that there was a spirit there, but then I also started my hearing abilities awakening full-fold, tenfold. And it scared the crap out of me, because I thought I was going nuts. So, and that's why I say, as empaths, make sure that you understand yourself, that you're not going nuts. If you have all of a sudden just opened up, we call it late bloomers and awakenings, or awaken, or, it's just, for me, they just started. So really alive. So I don't know what happened in that time of my period of life that the divine began to start to give me more gifts. Maybe I was ready. I don't know. Maybe this experience with the poltergeist and the spirit there, seeing that I could handle it. Don't know. Don't know why all of a sudden they decided to, or the divine decided to give me more gifts. So at that point in time, I'm working at Costco in security. And while I'm working security, one of our jobs, and security is the people at the door, but one of our jobs is to walk the floor to catch shoplifters or watch, because in Oregon or wherever, for this state, you cannot apprehend somebody that you have not seen take something and that you lost track of them through eyesight. So you have to be on them 24/7 all the way through the store. They, if they go into the bathroom, you have to go into the bathroom, that kind of thing. If you don't go to the bathroom, well, you just blew it. You can't do anything. So in this incident, I was walking the floor. I liked it because it was exercise for me. And the CEO of Costco and his team were coming in that day. And so I thought, you know what? The story gets tense whenever corporate comes down. So I'm just going to stay on the floor. So this is I can still see it today. It's sort of uncanny and a little eerie. So I'm walking the floor, and at that time it must be coming spring because they had all the lawnmowers out. And they were more up the front because seasonal is up front. So as I'm passing the lawnmowers, I pass them and I pass a gentleman in a tan vest and probably in his 40s, early 40s, late 30s, early 40s. And he had a broken arm, or what appeared to be broken arm. And as I passed him, now this is not only listening, this is when I'm starting to feel vibrations and auras. I pass him and I get a really bad feeling. Like, this dude's going to steal. That was the first thing off my top of my head. And I thought, nah, not again, one of those, nah, rub that off, because I had not felt energies prior to that. So then I'm walking around and I see him again. He doesn't have a card. He doesn't have anything. He's just looking around. And I pass him again, and that feeling hugely powers over me, like he's going to steal. And I thought, maybe I should follow him. Maybe I should do that. So I thought, what's it going to hurt? Okay, I'll follow him. I follow him. Nothing happens. So I begin to walk off. Actually, I take that back. When I started following him, I had walked down an aisle and he was in an aisle, like where the tools were. He was in that aisle. That's where I first started to decide to follow him. And I thought, he's just harmless looking around at tools and blah, blah, blah. So I leave him go and I pass him again. And I then begin to hear. And I hear, go back to the aisle where you met him. And I look around and I'm like, who said that? I'm like, and that's what I heard in my head. And I thought, okay, I shook that off and I thought, okay, that's nothing. Start walking around again. Now we have the CEO and his team all over the place and looking around, and our management's on the floor. And so then I'm looking around and I'm walking again, and I hear it a second time. Go back to the aisle that you met him. And now I'm like, what the frick is going on? Somebody's talking to me in my head. Really? Okay, I'm still going nuts. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to keep walking. I see him and I pass him, and I'm going back sort of towards where the tool area is, and I hear it almost screaming at me, extremely loud. Go back to the aisle where you first met him. And I was like, oh crap, I'm going nuts. But it keeps telling me to. Now this is the third time, remember. So I thought, okay, And I said to myself in my head, okay, 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 I'll go back and I'm going to show you there's nothing and I'm going nuts. So I don't go to the same aisle as the tools. I go back around because as security, we want to make sure that we're not seen. So I went back to the next aisle. But as you know, if you're at Costco or Sam's Club or one of those places, you can see through to the next aisle, right? So I'm facing the tools where he was at the beginning. And so I'm sitting there watching and I'm like waiting and I'm watching through these things and I'm looking down the aisle and I'm looking through. I'm like, okay, now again, I'm talking inside my head because that's where this voice is. And I said, see, he isn't here. He's not coming. I am going nuts. What the frick is going on here? And as soon as I said that, he comes around the corner and goes to the drills where I first met him. And now I begin to shake because I'm like, okay, what is going on? Who is talking to me in my head? What is going on? Now, here's the really weird thing is that as I'm sitting there shaking, nervous, not sure what's going on, he turns and looks down the aisle both ways, probably, to look, see if somebody's coming down the aisle. So he turns and looks to the left. He turns to look to the right. He turns completely around and looks me straight in the face. And I'm like, okay, well, this is a bust. Turns around as if he didn't even see me. He takes the drill, stuffs it in his vest, right where the supposedly broken arm is, and stuffs it in his vest, looks both ways, and starts walking off. I am terrified. I'm like excited, terrified, don't know what's going on. All I know is whatever this voice is in my head is now starting to do this more and more frequently. But the thing is, as I started following him, I thought, did he really take the fit? He saw me. Why would he take the drill? Why would he do that? And then I thought, did he see me? I'm not invisible. But was I really invisible to him? Was there a spirit standing in front of me blocking it so that he couldn't see me? I don't know. But the thing is, as he went around the corner, I followed him, and there I saw my manager, the owner of Costco, the CEOs, the vice presidents, and I looked at them all, and I'm on somebody. I need help. So I followed the gentleman all the way through the store. He went all the way back through, and he went to step outside, and our general manager, as he went to step behind him, because I, again, have to follow him all the way without being seen, my manager asked him outside if there was something that he would like to take out of his vest, and the guy took off because we can't apprehend him. We can't apprehend him at that point, and it's dangerous. It's all dangerous. So again, I heard the voice 3 times in my head. That is sort of a sign when spirit or when divine really is trying to get some attention. Now, those voices did not stop. Those voices at work did not stop. I was catching shoplifter left and right because I would feel the energies of somebody as I would walk by. I would know that their intentions were not good. And then I would actually go and do the same thing over and over and over again. But and it made me start to really think I was going nuts at that time because I didn't know what was happening. As a new empath, you might think that you're going nuts. You're not. It's just that these abilities, the doors will open, and the divine will give you these abilities to the point where you can handle them. If you say, I don't want these, then they'll take them away. The divine will take them away. I know somebody who can actually visually see. She can actually see really well, but she's so terrified, she just squishes it and says, I don't want this, and they don't show up. So, I mean, these are things that you can actually allow and grow into yourself. You can also grow yourself. Now, those voices kept going and going and going. But really, there's one really short story that that really really made me upset. Is again, I was feeling the vibrations, the intentions of people that weren't good. I'd hear the voice that they were going to steal, or I would follow them, and the voice would come through of what they were going to do, and I would do that. Now there was these two young boys, really made me angry. Two young boys. I had gotten. I walked by them and their energies were like they're trouble. And so not only that, they I don't know if I heard a voice with those or not. I may have, but the energies were that they were trouble. So what happened was I followed those two boys, and then all of a sudden there was one. And so I thought, okay, there one of them they've split up. So then there's one of them. The energy said to stay on this one boy. So I stayed on the one boy. I followed him, and the other boy happened to be inside the um, the aisleway, hidden inside the products. And I looked at them, and I thought, okay, somebody's stealing. Lo and behold, long story short, they split up again. I followed the boy that was actually having something in their pocket, and the energies just kept saying, stay on him. Because I was like, okay, whatever. With again, this voice is going. It was like, stay on him, stay on him. So I did. So we apprehended him. And lo and behold, the little boy's probably 12, 13. And the boy was pulled into the management office. Nothing was happening. We had a female manager that was an idiot that time. So I've had to deal with my brother being he was on drugs, he was in jail, so I had to deal with that kind of stuff. So anyway, this little boy ended up having a gun in his pocket. And then they let him go, which they shouldn't have. But anyway, again, that's another ability of feeling those energies and all that kind of stuff. Now, that's not as much paranormal as the first two stories. However, who's talking to me in my head? So at this point in time, I don't know who it is or what it was, or at that time, I didn't know, but I do now. And the thing is, you will have that. Now that voice is either the divine or there is somebody that he is sending, as I do with my readings. I will always call on the divine or the creator or God or whoever you want to call it first, but it doesn't mean that they're going to be there all the time. It means that they'll send somebody through, or the divine will send somebody to bring the message that they need to get to me. So that's what that is. So the paranormal can actually be somebody guiding, you know. I'm not one of these that'll say, oh, it's Saint Michael. Oh, it's Saint Francis. I'm not one of those, because in all reality, unless they say, hey, Pat, this is Saint Michael. I'm like, okay, then I'll believe it. But I don't know who these entities are that are coming through. But I do know in the end of this that there are spirits, there are residual energies. Now, I do know that these spirits can either be really nice and helpful. I had a spirit have me know that somebody was going to die, and my process to help their partner through this process, and the person did die 3 months later. I know that there's spirits that are there to help. I do know there's spirits there to be really destructive, very low energies. They want your soul. And that's what basically any spirit or energy or the universe wants. They want your heart, which is your soul. And that is where spirit is. Because if they can get your heart and your soul, they know that you won't have spirit. So when people get really into dark places like suicide and deep, deep depressions, I question it to be a spiritual battle. You'll hear me talk about spiritual battles because I'm in them all the time. And a lot of people are like, how do you do it? If you knew me personally, the very few friends that I have, they're like, you just amaze me. You just amaze me. And I'm like, why is that? Because you can get through anything. And these are unseen battles. These are not things of the earth. These are not things, these are things they're fighting over my soul and my heart. And they're now, I believe, after my daughters because they know how close she is to me. So I have spiritual battles time. So if you need to know how to get through a spiritual battle, give me a jingle. But do know that paranormal is out there. And the paranormal, you have to just sort of look at it. So if you're fearful of the unseen, if you're fearful of spirit, if you're fearful of just things happening that you don't know about, that is where you reach out to people to help you, because they can help you put a piece to it, or they can help you actually understand it. They can help you get rid of it, or if it's really stubborn, that may take a lot more. But energies really are not there, and spirits are not there in all reality to be mean. A lot of them are loved ones that just want to be around us. A lot of them are people that we know that come in to say hello. How many times have you had somebody pass on and you smell their smell? And nobody there, you're not in a store where there's like perfume, there's all that kind of stuff. All of a sudden or maybe they smoked a cigar, or maybe all of a sudden you smell cigarettes. And a lot of people poo poo that, but these are actually indications that spirit is near. A lot of the times you might feel a brush, or maybe somebody you'll feel like is on your backside and there really is nobody there. Or all of a sudden you'll get a coldness sort of, and there's no breeze, there's no reason for it. A lot of that is spirit. If it's residual energy, you probably won't get most of that, because the residual energy is of somebody who's probably lived in that space or done the same thing over and over and over again. And it could be out in the, maybe they go camping and they're in a favorite camping spot, or maybe, it all just depends on where they want to be, where they are. So those are a couple of the stories. The the one story I'll share with you very lastly. When my brother was murdered, I was living with a gentleman who is from another country, Asian country, and they're very superstitious. And during that time, he was murdered in Florida, and I came home, and the young man was terrified. And I said, "What's wrong?" He goes, "You have to go to the house. You have to go to the house." I said, "What is wrong?" And he says, Bill is there. Bill is there. He's waiting. I know he's waiting." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, here we go." So I said, "Why do you say that?" And he's like, "I was fixing your bed and made your bed and got it all nice and clean. And I go and make it all. And then I come back and the bed turned down. The bed turned down." I said, "What do you mean by turned down?" He goes, and so when I got there, he showed me folded back, like, "I think you're tired. He wants you to rest. He wants you to rest. You're tired." So that wasn't the only time. So my brother was quite the delinquent, but I loved him to pieces, and I still love you, bro. We all went through our stuff. But the thing is, I brought his box of things out. I brought his box of things out and sat them on the living room floor because I wanted to go through them, because it had, some of his personal belongings, but a lot of his police stuff. So I wanted to go through that, but I had to get up and go to the restroom. So I get up and go to the restroom and shut the door. And then all of a sudden I'm hearing pounding at my door. "Pat, Bill's here, Bill's here." I said, "What?" I said, "What's going on?" "The lights, the TV, the lights going on, off. I'm laughing. And I said, "Are you in his box? Are you looking inside that box?" I just go look. I said, "He don't want you in the box. Stay out of the box and the lights of the TV will be low." Oh my goodness. Poor guy was just scared. Bill was around. He was around for quite a book. And as some of you know, the book behind me is a book I wrote. I started to write before all this happened, and I didn't want to finish it. And I thought this is going to be my grief works to finish the book because it's nutrition and fitness. That's what my degree is in. And every morning I would get up around 6 a.m. I'd get my coffee, sit at the table. We didn't have computers like we do now at all. So I would have to write almost everything. And so every morning and I would begin to write, and I would hear, I would sit, my table was next to the kitchen, but then there was a doorway into the living room. And that doorway was probably just not too far from me, not too far. So the first thing I hear is, and I'm like, no, nothing. And then I'd hear it again. And I was like, gosh, we must have mice. Now I'm going to have to get an exterminator. And then it would stop. And every morning I'd get up, it would be the same knock. And for about a week, this happened. I thought, okay, this can't be mice. And I'm like, ugh. And so the first knock came on the last day. And I was like, Bill, is that you? Are you just trying to let me know you're here? And then it never happened again. Pretty interesting. I got goosebumps. I love you, bro. I love you, bro. I'm going to start crying. I'm being an empath. Whew, he's near. Anyway, those are some fun stories. Those are some ideas. Those are some tips and tools for you as an empath to help you understand that the paranormal is not scary. The paranormal actually can give you a lot of information. The spirits can give you a lot of information. I know I'm teary-eyed because he is here. A lot of energies going on lately. A lot of spiritual energies from the past are around me. I don't know what's going on. But these are tools and tips, and hopefully these will help you. Some of these stories I hope you enjoyed. If you would like, leave some comments. If you need some more information, the information is below, how to reach me. And then also to make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe if you'd like to do that. Now, I do a lot more tarot reading as an intuitive. Again, I use my hearing abilities for that. I use my hearing and my sensory touch, feel abilities. So hopefully that it gives you the information that you need. More so than I do the cards too, but I can do intuitive readings without the cards as well. But I enjoy the cards. So I hope you enjoyed this. Please share with your friends. If you want to hear more stories, please like, share, subscribe. Let me know if you'd like more stories because I got a whole luggage full. All right. We will talk to you soon. And hopefully you will be on for the other reading for the new moon and the full moon of November. All right, guys. Thank you for listening and take care and have a great day.